Hello and good morning. Welcome to this London Federation of Small Business session, this roundtable. We're on the countdown to COP26, and this is the third and final in a series of roundtables as we run up to COP26. I'd like to welcome you all. Also, just to let you know that this session is being recorded. But here at Federation of Small Business, we know that our members care a lot. We know that they are wanting to commit to net zero. We know that they want more information on how to do that. And that's why we set up these sessions. So I am Rowena Howie. I am the London policy representative for Federation of Small Business. And I'm here to encourage you after this webinar and at any time to feedback any questions that you have, any challenges that you're facing, so that we can embrace that in our policy decisions, so that we can know what you're facing and so we can do our best to help. But without further ado, I would like to hand over to Sat Pillai, our environmental lead. He's going to be conducting today's proceedings and he's going to fill you in more on that. Thanks, Sat.
Thanks, Rowena, and welcome everyone to this third of three sessions that we prepared at the FSB as part of getting ready for COP26 that's starting in Glasgow next week. The first roundtable was about top tips for small and medium-sized businesses to take steps towards becoming a net zero carbon contributor. The second roundtable has specific examples of businesses on their pathways to becoming net zero. And today we're looking beyond COP26 and hearing from organizations that small and medium-sized enterprises can partner with to get to net zero. But first of all, I must blow the trumpet on behalf of the FSB. Thanks to the central team, including Sarah King, Matt Jaffa, and Paul Wilson, and a volunteer A-team who've been jumping out of their vans. We've conducted consultations on ULEZ. We worked with the Mayor's Office on the Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Delivery Task Force, on the van scrappage scheme, which got scrapped a little too early, the London Business Hub's Climate Hub. We've spoken at a number of London-wide forums, including the London Climate Action Week, and with UK Power Networks on designing electric vehicle infrastructure for SMEs. Now, today we have an excellent set of panelists from across London and beyond. And without further ado, let me introduce them very briefly. We have Paul Wilson, our very own esteemed head of policy, who used to work for the UK government's climate policy teams. And we also have, I'll just make sure, Kate Flinton, who's there from the Cross River Partnership. And additionally, we have Aminaya Diaby from the GLA's London Business Hub. And just checking, yep, Dr. Huan Zun from the Kingston Living Lab. Stephen King from London Councils. Sam, I don't know if Sam's on, but Sam Lux from Bays, and Sam Baker from Goal 13. There are a lot of Sams. Okay, so without further ado, Paul Wilson, who's opening the batting for us.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks very much, Sat. I do like the idea of an A-team jumping out of a van, although I do hope it's an electric van, given the context of this conversation. So good morning, everyone. I'm Paul Wilson. I'm the Policy Director working on the staff side. The FSB, very happy to be here. And net zero is, of course, a crucially important issue for us at the moment. We've recently surveyed the membership, our Big Voice panel. And actually, I would say if you're not a member of the Big Voice panel, do look into it, sign up. It's a great way to have your say over a range of policy issues. Net zero is just one example. We've surveyed our members, got over 1,000 responses recently, and we're going to be publishing a report in around a week or so's time to coincide with the FSB's flagship sustainability conference on the 2nd of November, which I think Sarah will put some information into the chat on. So what's our survey data telling us? What's our report telling us? Well, the majority of FSB members do believe there's a climate crisis and they do want to take action. However, only a third of small businesses currently have a plan and have taken steps towards implementing that plan. That's not stopped them taking smaller actions, though. So the majority of members have done something, whether that be on waste management or energy management, energy efficiency. And actually, there are some really inspiring stories coming through of businesses who've been, forced to shut during the lockdown, and have, instead of sitting on their hands, have really taken that time to formulate ambitious net zero plans. And it's incredible to think that they were doing that in such a difficult period, but they have been. We've got some of those case studies in the report that we'll be publishing. We've got members doing microgeneration. About 1 in 5 members do microgeneration, which I think is great. Solar panels are by far the most popular investment there. And for the very, very smallest businesses for whom it might well not be practical to do microgeneration, got around a quarter switching to green tariffs. So there's a lot of small steps taken, but a lot more can be done on the sort of overall planning and doing more, because this is net zero and more will be needed. So what are the barriers? What are the barriers that are stopping members doing more at the moment? Well, time is an obvious one. Small business owners, of course, are very time poor, got a range of pressures, particularly over the last couple of years. And that's not going away, that issue. Information, I think, something that's coming very clearly is that having easy to access information from trusted sources is really important. I'll say a little bit more about that in a moment. Lack of charging infrastructure is a barrier on the electric vehicle side of things, and looking at transport as well. In some areas, the public transport is not good enough to really be used or be trusted by any other than a very small proportion of small businesses. And then you've got some other issues like business rates, of course, something that the FSB talks an awful lot about, which is holding members back, because it is literally a perverse incentive that if you invest in your property, make it greener, you could end up paying more by way of tax. That is the definition of a perverse incentive. So the report will highlight all of that and have some amazing policy recommendations for governments right across the UK. Now, in terms of other support that's available, I just wanted to flag up 2 things. First, the FSB has its own sustainability hub. It's got useful content to help you understand the sustainability arena. We're adding to it on a weekly basis. It's got links to FSB events like the full day conference on 2nd of November. Did I mention that one earlier? Do sign up. It's got links to things like the Government Pledge to Zero campaign and general hints, tips and guidance. Secondly, the Zero Carbon Portal is a website that can help with this. It's focused on practical steps businesses can take. There's a beta version up, which is being built on at the moment, and they want your feedback to improve the sites. That's the Broadway Initiative Zero Carbon Portal. Again, really fantastic practical resource. I shall stop now.
Thank you, Paul. And that's a really important point. There's a lot of information out there, but I think the FSB is providing that channel with sort of fine-tuning the information, putting it on a frequency that small businesses can listen to on a regular basis, listen, read, participate in. And we're really looking forward to the November 2nd event and all the findings from the report as well. Next up, thank you, Paul. Next up is, we have Kate Fenton from the Cross River Partnership. And over to you, Kate.
Hi, Sarah. Thank you. Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me. I'm just going to share some slides. Just give me 1 second. Hopefully everyone can see that. Zach, can you just confirm? Can you see my slides?
Yep, looks good. You might want to put it on screen mode, but that looks good.
Yeah, okay, super. Thank you. Sorry, just bear with me. I'm having IT issues like mad today. Right, I will carry on. Okay, so I'm Kate from Cross River Partnership. I'm one of the project managers here, and I'm just going to tell you about one of the projects I'm working on to do with air quality and sustainability, and just about some of the free tools that we have that you can use. So just a little bit about Cross River Partnership briefly. We're a not-for-profit organisation, and we've been working in London for 27 years, and we work on things that make London a better place to live, work and visit. Our board is made up of partners who broach the public and private sector. So we have local authorities, business improvement districts and strategic agencies who are our partners. So the first tool that I'd like to tell you about today is the Clean Air Villages Directory. So this is essentially a list of suppliers and businesses who deliver in London using zero or ultra low emission modes. So for example, cargo bikes and electric vehicles. So you can check out this directory and see if there are any suppliers that you could use on it. Equally, if you deliver using EVs or cargo bikes or anything like that, then you can be listed on it for free. So do get in touch about that. So the second tool that we have is called CAT, Clean Air Tool. And this is a free tool that you can use to calculate what emission savings you would make if you switched from, for example, a diesel van to an electric one. So you simply enter how far your journey is each week, and you can learn, for example, how many square meters of Arctic ice you could save through changing your vehicle mode. And you can use this information on your social media to help promote it for your business. Do check it out. So another tool that we have is Deliver Best. So this again is a free tool, and all you have to do is enter some basic information about your business. There are just 10 points to answer, and it gives you tailored outputs and recommendations of what you can do to save time and money whilst also improving local air quality. So there are some location specific outputs, but if you're not based in London, you can still use it, and it takes about 2 minutes to complete. So we can share all these links with you afterwards. So the next tool that we have is Click and Collect. So the question I would pose is, are your staff able to receive personal deliveries into your place of work? So if you operate from a city centre or central London location, then a van is delivering an item into this area, and your member of staff is then likely taking it back out of town to where they live. So this van journey feels unnecessary in terms of it going into the centre. By using Click and Collect services, you can have your parcel delivered to a location near where you live, even if you're not in. And others have simply educated their employees about why they prefer not to have their items delivered to their place of work. And this tool shows Click Collect locations, and you can search by postcode. So the Clean Air Villages project that I manage, and we're working on a wide range of air quality interventions across London, and there are a couple of ways that you could get involved. So we actually have some free vehicle telematics dongles that we're offering to if you operate in any of 6 areas of London that we're working in, and if you're considering switching to an EV, then these devices could be for you. They monitor your vehicle usage, and you'll receive a report, which is essentially a lot of people that are thinking of switching have kind of range anxiety and think that, so these tools kind of give you that reassurance as to if there's something that meets your need, and to use the River Thames for freight. So the river is an underutilised resource and can bring this, and we can explore the feasibility of river freight with them. So you get in touch. So finally, we produce various case studies and toolkits as part of the project, which we share on our website. And we also are running a series of webinars at the moment called Lunchtime Launches. So all of the case studies and all of the webinars can be accessed on our website. That's about fleet electrification, so it could be of interest. So do sign up, it's all free, and they're available on our YouTube channel if you can't attend. So that is literally a whistle-stop tour. I hope that's been helpful. So thank you.
That's great. Thank you, Kate. And I guess there's a lot of information there. So will we have access to the slides in some way, or will we, maybe you can share a link to the Cross River Partnerships website as well on the chat? Sarah's already done that, I think. Sarah's doing that.
I can put the links in just now after this, but you're welcome to share the slides with everybody as well. That's not a problem.
Yeah, excellent. And there's a real need actually, because I don't believe that London uses the river as much as it should do for transportation and other needs, and to have a partnership that's going to sort of join up the dots, because there are sort of challenges with regard to policy and incentives for both river transportation, but also either side of the river, the actual other work that you all are doing on electric vehicles and so on. So I think it's a really, really amazing initiative that you're doing. Thank you.
It's just quite an exciting area to be exploring as well. And while we've got the ultra low emission zone expanding, and we've got increasing charges and costs, and we've got low emission zones, and there's clean air zones, and it's getting really complicated to deliver and for business. So something to look at.
Yeah, it's complex as well. Lots of different stakeholders involved and so on. So it becomes quite complicated in terms of keeping everybody happy. But it's good. Excellent. Thank you, Kate. And next up, we have Aminata Diaby from the GLA's London Business Hub. I believe Sam as well is joining. Sam Goodwin will be joining in that as well. So thank you both, and over to you.
Hello, so I'm going to be sharing a screen as well. So let me put it up. Are you able to see it?
Yep, looks good.
All right, great. Oops. All right. So hello. So my name is Aminata Diaby, and I work for the London Business Hub. I'm going to give you a quick overview of the London Business Hub Climate Hub. But first of all, about the London Business Hub. So we are the Mayor of London one-stop shop for free support, and our program are designed to help London-based small and medium size enterprise to thrive. So our aim is to simplify the business support landscape for SME to help them achieve their ambition in London. And we bring together key resources related to business support in one place. So as you know, the Mayor of London is working to make London a zero-emission city by 2030. Many London businesses have already taken some action on climate change and are seeing the benefits and opportunity it can bring. For example, reducing carbon emission can lower your running cost and save you money, attract new customers. So to help you on your journey, the London Business Hub have brought together a range of resources to support you to act on climate change. Oops. Sorry, trying to. Okay, so right. Sorry about that. I couldn't find the button to change the slide. So we've created some guidance that are based on 6 key sectors in London. So financial and professional services, construction, hospitality, retail, creative and recreational, information, communication, and technology. So what we've done is for each of those sectors, we give you a framework and as well top 10 action, practical step you could implement to start your journey. And we give you as well 2 sector-specific case studies so you can learn from your peers. So I invite you to go and have a look at our framework. We've got as well a number of initiatives from the Mayor. We've got information on the Race to Zero, COP26, and a lot of external resource. For example, the FSB website around support around climate change. We've got Re-London. So we've got a lot of local support organization that provides support. So please do and have a look at it. We've got as well all the upcoming events that are relevant around net zero. So please have a look at it as well. And finally, we encourage all SME to sign up to the SME Climate Commitment, which is part of the UN Race to Zero global effort to reduce green gases emission to zero by 2050. So please visit our London Business Hub Climate Hub page to keep up to date with the latest news around net zero business support available, because we keep updating this web page with new initiatives that are taking place in London. And I know a lot of organizations that are putting a budget to support SMEs and new projects that will be coming along within the next few months. So please to make sure you're aware of them and make sure that you benefit from the support, please visit our webpage. Thank you. I'm gonna hand over now to Sam.
Good morning, thanks for that, Amy, and thanks to Sat and the team for having me today. If you just bear with me, I'm just going to share a couple of slides very quickly. So you should all be able to see that. Can I just confirm that you can see the slides there?
Yep.
Yep. Okay. So just to really quickly introduce myself, I'm Sam Goodwin. I'm a Senior Policy and Programmes Officer in the Sustainable Development Team within the Greater London Authority. I just wanted to really just briefly give you a bit of an overview of two different business support programmes that we're currently running. So the first one is a Better Futures ERDF funded one, which, as you can see, is a £4.26 million programme that helps to support businesses. And the second one, the sister programme, which is also running in parallel to that, is a Green New Deal funded Better Futures Plus programme, which is valued at £900,000 worth of business support. We work with multiple delivery partners. So we work with Imperial College London, Sustainable Ventures, ICON, which is the consultancy arm of Imperial College London, West London Business, and OPDC. So the fundamental aims of the programme is that we work and support the growth of London businesses that produce sustainable technologies and services and products that reduce negative impacts on the environment. So how do we help them do that? So we give SMEs access to technical expertise, business support, and a whole suite of different business support services and tools that can help them either transition and pivot to a more sustainable model or help bring those products or services to market. So the different support elements, they're quite varied. So firstly, we have a Green Transformation Innovation Vouchers, which isn't the most succinct title for a business support element, but essentially that allows businesses to access consultancy and one-to-one support, as I say, to help them pivot their business model to a more sustainable way of business. So we are dealing with a very broad spectrum of sectors. So whether that be film companies that are filming on site within London that have previously used diesel generators to power, they're now looking at more sustainable methods to do that, right through to the more traditional businesses that are quite power and energy intensive. We also offer a 12-month business accelerator programme for Imperial College London. This offers world-class expertise in helping businesses who have got a product and service, a concept, help them bring that to a more progressed stage of the prototype, and it gives them, again, access to world-class expertise. We have an internship programme where SMEs can host interns from Royal Imperial College London, which brings a completely new, different skill set into the business, and again, can help them transition. We also do Green New Deal Innovation Vouchers, internship pilot program, which is placing interns that are from historically underrepresented backgrounds, which again can be placed within the business. And then to top it all off, we offer a comprehensive business support package, which is 12 hours of business support, which can range from anything from helping a business develop a business model through to marketing, looking at the funding and grant landscape that's out there, and helping them with funding bids. Again, I've already touched on it, but just to recap, so our delivery partners, Greater London Authority, we're the lead partner, and we've got overall programme management, Imperial College London, Imperial Consultants, ICON, OPDC, Sustainable Ventures, and West London Business. And just on the final slide, I think this is very telling of businesses that look to transition to a more sustainable model and engage with the programme and get that support from us. So here you can see year-on-year survival rates of SMEs, and you can see UK average survival rates, London survival rates, and then in the green, you can see the survival rates of businesses that have engaged, looked at the carbon footprint, and really want to transition. And I think this is quite telling of businesses that engage with support programs and are really looking to transition. So thank you. I will put the details and the link to the application for businesses in the chat. But if there's any questions, please do let me know.
Thank you, Sam. So there have been a couple of questions that are coming in, but I'm going to leave those towards the end. There's some very good questions, and it's probably maybe an open round table kind of format that we can have those questions come through. But in terms of the presentation, some of yourself and Aminata mentioned Re-London, which obviously is a, well, people don't know that it's a rebranded organization of London Waste and Recycling partnerships. It was called the London Waste and Recycling Board, which works with all the local councils to deliver better waste management services. Re-London is the rebranded version of that, and they're focusing on the circular economy, which is all around how do we create products and services that minimize our footprint on our planet. So that's a very interesting organization to look at. We wanted to have them as one of the speakers, but we weren't able to pull that together in the short time that we had. The other thing I wanted to also mention, to touch on with Sam's presentation, is the fact that the sort of the younger generation are really into the need for climate action, and so to have interns from universities to work on these kinds of projects will really rejuvenate your organization. And as we all know, a business is all around sustainability, right? We need to be going concerns from day one to day whatever. That's the whole idea of a business. It's got to be a going concern. And that means we're completely and perfectly aligned as small businesses to the climate agenda, which is all around sustainability and preserving the resources that we have for future generations. So thank you both. And I'm going to quickly move on to the next presenter. And we touched on Imperial College. We have another university now to talk about some of the work that they're doing, and that's Kingston University. And we have Dr. Huan Zun. Over to you.
Thank you. I'll start sharing my screen now. Right. So can you guys see my slides?
Yeah, looks good.
Thank you. So thank you for having me. Hello everyone. Thank you FSB for having me. My name is Juan, and I'm the research assistant for Kingston Living Lab. So this new project is set up by Professor Ola Genius, who is the Director of Small Business Research Center at Kingston University. So the aim of Kingston Living Lab is to help SMEs to reduce carbon emissions by reducing energy use in terms of heating, and therefore we are using the concept of Living Lab to introduce this 6-week experiment, which focuses on heating within SME's workplace. So how does it work, right? So here is an overview of the experiment. So before the start of the 6-week experiment, we will invite SMEs participants to our briefing session. We will provide instructions for the challenge and also distribute 2 devices. So these are the 2 devices that will be used in the experiments. It comes in a pair. So one is to record the indoor temperature. The other one is to display the current temperature in the room or the workplace. So the devices are pretty easy to use. So participants just need to place them in their workplace. They do not need to switch it on or anything. Everything will be ready. So it's pretty simple, okay? So after the briefing session, we will then start to the baseline week, which is starting 1st of November. So these 2 weeks, basically, we are trying to collect a baseline data from participants. So participants will still be operating their business as usual, switching on their heating as usual. So the idea of these 2 weeks baseline is to understand SMEs' normal energy consumption behavior. And after 2 weeks, we will send a survey which includes a temperature challenge that the participants can choose. So either they can choose to reduce indoor temperature workplace to 18 degrees Celsius or a personal heating challenge, okay? So after the 2 weeks, then it starts the 4-week challenge where participants will be actively reducing their heating in their workplace to meet the target, okay? And according to consultancy firm Smarter Business, every 1 degree Celsius reduction in temperature during heating season can cut costs by 8%. And you're not just only cutting costs, but also helping the environment by reducing your carbon emissions. And finally, when the challenge is complete, We will then invite participants again back to the Living Lab, where they can share their experiences and also results with other participants. We'll also provide a report on the temperature during the 6-week experiment so that participants can see which day and what time they use heating the most and whether such heating is necessary. And that would help them to control their energy use, right? Okay, so this is pretty much how the temperature data looks like, but this is obviously still raw data, more analysis is needed. But just to give you an idea, the temperature log will be only tracking the date, times, temperature every 10 minutes, and that will go on for these 6 weeks. Okay. So if you are an SMEs in London and you're interested in this experiment for reducing your carbon emissions and also energy bills, please contact me as soon as you can, because our briefing session starts today and also next week. These are the time slots in there. So you can sign up via the Kingston Living Lab webpage, or you can contact me directly via email. But if you're interested in this experiment, but you can't attend all these slots, again, feel free to sign up. We might have a phase 2 of this experiment next year. Okay. So thank you very much for having me. I hope you find this project interesting, and hope that you will join us for the 6-week experiment. Thanks again. I'll put the link in the chat. Thank you.
Thank you, Juan. And I don't know if I missed it, but did you say how many small and medium-sized enterprises you'd want in the study?
Currently, because the team is only me and Professor Audley, so we are aiming to have like 20. 20 SMEs, but currently we already have 12 SMEs participated.
Okay, and you know, as we all know, a lot of the climate change debate is evolving, right? We're still learning more and more about what's going on, and so the work that the universities are doing in partnership with small and medium-sized enterprises is really important, because no one knows everything about this issue, and some of the research that you're doing is going to be really useful from a practical point of view for SMEs in the short and medium term. Yeah, thank you. Right, next up we have our next speaker, and our next speaker is from London Councils, and it is Stephen King. Thank you, Stephen. I know we arranged this at very short notice, so we appreciate you devoting this time. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for the invite. Just to briefly say, London Councils is the umbrella organisation for the 32 London boroughs plus the City of London. So we represent all the London boroughs that you will be dealing with individually. It's great to have heard some of the examples already where boroughs are already working in partnership with business. So, you know, Cross River Partnership is a great example of businesses and boroughs working together. And again, Sat mentioned Re-London, and again, a wonderful organisation that's running out of the boroughs in terms of reducing the waste. And actually, when we surveyed businesses recently, better recycling facilities was one of the top requests that we got from them. Just to say, of the London boroughs, 25 of the London boroughs have already signed up to their climate action plans, which include supporting local businesses to reduce their carbon footprint, but also to help develop new businesses as well in this area. So it's worth to say that we are committed to working to double green industries in London by 2030. So there's a huge market out there for you guys as well, and a growing market. And I think that's one of the exciting things to mention is, you know, in terms of retrofitting, we're doing analysis of the scale of the retrofit offer. We're looking at also work on green finance. You know, the city is certainly working to be a leading authority on there. Consultancy, one of the things we hear from businesses is we don't to manage our carbon footprints. So, and again, a big area for businesses to get into. But one of the kind of key things I want to say in this presentation is if you're not in contact with your borough, please do get in contact with your borough. We may seem a little impenetrable and a little hard to understand. I apologise for that, but on our website there will be somewhere where you can find support for businesses. Each borough has a business support team. Each borough will be having increasingly working on this area of working with businesses to reduce their climate impact. Just a few examples. So Wandsworth is now working with their local borough on green skills and training people to make sure that businesses have the access to the skills they need. Newham has an absolutely vast area, the Royal Docks, which they're redeveloping. That's an enterprise zone, and they're looking at business loans to actually get green businesses into there. And so that's the area around the Excel, for example. Islington is funding SMEs around energy efficiency, replacing lightings. Brent has a whole series of webinars on small changes that can be made. I know that they're also working on cargo bikes as well with their local businesses. Town Hamlets, again, they are giving out SMEs 50% grants to cover certain elements around, for example, delivering solar panels. And Hammersmith and Fulham is running a carnival, a climate carnival in the next few weeks in the run-up to COP, which will be looking at how, encouraging both residents and businesses to do that. Interesting enough, we produced a piece of research recently looking at Londoners' views on climate change. 80%, well over 80%, are concerned about climate change. And again, there's a clear market for you as businesses to look at that. Our residents are concerned about these issues. So as I say, we think there's about 196,000 new jobs to be delivered in delivering net zero homes by 2030. There's a huge knowledge economy out there as well. We're working to try and get the investment from central government to deliver this. And so I suppose my final closing point is just to say that there is support out there. I won't say it's consistent. Every borough, I'm afraid, has a slightly different approach, and that is one of the problems that we have for you. But I would say, find out where you are, contact your local borough and see what support is offered out there. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. So I had a question on that. Is there some resource that we can have a look at that's maybe under development already available around how each of the councils is supporting their climate action? Is there some kind of clearinghouse or a central repository of information around that? For example, the one of the councils you mentioned is offering 50% grants on solar panels.
Yeah,
if that's publicly available and comparable to other councils, maybe other councils will jump in and do the same. Who knows?
I think there is something. I will find out. The problem that we have, Sat, is that we're firing at a moving target. They're all developing new initiatives, and it's constantly changing. So what I could supply you with today could be out of date in a month's time, unfortunately. So that I wouldn't want to say where we are, simply because, like I say, that we are doing more and more work in this area. And for example, if you wanted, you mentioned charging points, the rolling out of charging points, that is an area that we're, boroughs are trying to accelerate. And again, there's another area to contact you. I will have a look. I will talk to my colleagues and see how we can support you in that. I would actually refer to one of your last speakers in terms of the Business Hub. They have a good portal there which lists all the boroughs and lists where you can get business support from those boroughs. So yeah, and that's a good entry point as well as our own websites.
Okay, that's great. Thanks, Stephen. And I suppose one of the other challenges is the issues that we were talking about. They're systemic, right? In terms of waste and recycling. We from one county might be transferred, the crossing boundaries. So how do you track some of that? How do you address that? So connecting the dots again is a challenge between councils, I imagine.
Yes, indeed. And some, but there's some obvious targets we're going after, like construction waste, big issue, and that we can collaborate around.
Yeah. Excellent. Thank you very much, Stephen. And we're going to move on to the next speaker, and that is my good friend Sam Lux from BEIS, Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy Department. And Sam's going to be talking about the Business Climate Leaders Campaign. Sam, over to you.
Thanks so much, Sat. Thanks for the invite. It's been really, really interesting. It's felt a bit like speed dating. I think it's so much information in such a short period of time. Really, really good format. I might pinch it actually. So yeah, I'm Sam from the Department of Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy. I would normally sit in the Net Zero Public Engagement team, but in the lead up to COP, I've been working full time on this Business Climate Leaders Campaign, which I'm going to very briefly tell you all about. Can you see my slides okay?
Yep.
Fab. So it's all, as I mentioned, kind of in the lead up to COP26, which is the annual UN conference. This year we have the privilege of hosting that in the UK. I should say it's a conference where the world's leaders get together to talk about climate change and how we're going to fix the climate crisis. And we are hosting it in Glasgow this year on the 1st of November, which is right around the corner. And at the heart of that this year is going to be the Race to Zero campaign, which is the largest alliance of organisations all over the world committed to net zero emissions by 2050. Because we're hosting COP, we do have our own sort of UK skin of Race to Zero, which is Together for Our Planet. So that's a UK domestic campaign. And that has a public engagement side, but also a business engagement side, which is what we're talking about today. So Andrew Griffith, MP, is our net zero business champion. I work in his private office, so he leads on a couple of campaigns, but one of which is the Small Business Mass Mobilisation campaign, which is what I'm working on and what I'd love to fill you in on today. So essentially, it's just trying to get as many small businesses in the UK signed up to the Race to Zero, so making that official net zero commitment. And this is what the numbers look like at the moment. So we've passed the 2,000 mark now in the UK. And when we look at that international picture, we're doing really, really well. Of course, we have much higher ambitions. We want to keep growing and growing after COP and providing the support that small businesses need, and also the kind of the structure after making that commitment. So yeah, I'll come back to this at the end. But if you are a business or you have contact with lots of businesses, which I guess is why we're all here today, then please do share the Together for Our Planet campaign. I'll put a link in the chat so that we can continue to kind of grow this community of committed businesses who we're then able to support from government. So just to set the scene, a little bit of context, we launched this campaign back in late May. So the PM invited around 10 businesses down to Downing Street to talk about what they've been doing to reduce emissions. And we had a lovely concerted comms push with lots of our task force members. So BT, for example, put it on the BT Tower. And we had, yeah, it was just kind of plastered all over social media. And since then, we've had a few big comms pushes sort of each month. And I do have a big list of stakeholders, and I update them every so often whenever there's a big new update. So if you'd like to be added to that list, then please let me know, and so you can kind of stay up to date with where that campaign's headed. So you might be wondering, why should I as a business join the Race to Zero? Actually, our research shows that being part of the solution to climate is a really strong motivational factor. Which is very encouraging, but there are also lots of business benefits. For one, the PR side of things, when you sign up, you get access to a suite of digital assets that you can display on your channels to show that your customers who are increasingly looking for sustainable products and services, of course, that you're taking this seriously and you're part of a UN-backed campaign. And it might be that you're already doing stuff. From what the sounds of things, there's a ton of things going on. And so why not gain recognition and kind of get that extra stamp of approval from the United Nations, which is kind of like the ultimate kind of body, if you like. And then, of course, that's on top of potential competitive and financial benefits of being more resource efficient. And then on the other side of things, regulations over the next few decades are going to increasingly favour those businesses who are reducing their emissions. So it makes sense to be an early adopter now and be ahead of the curve in order to future-proof your business. So this is what the climate commitment looks like. It's on a website called the SME Climate Hub. So Race to Zero is for all kinds of organisations. They all have their own route in. For small businesses, makes sense. It's via the SME Climate Commitment. So this is the same for all businesses all over the world. You can see what the form looks like on the right. It's really, really simple. Again, I'll put a link in the chat after this. essentially halving emissions by 2030, net zero by 2050, and then a yearly progress report. And we do get a lot of questions about what that progress report looks like, and I'll just come on to that in a second. But yeah, essentially, don't worry about it. So this is the UK Business Climate Hub, which is embedded into that wider global SME Climate Hub. So what we've done is, again, create a UK skin. So all of the information, all of the resources and kind of links on this part of the website are tailored to a UK audience, and also towards the micro end of the spectrum, really, because we want to make sure that it's really relevant and accessible to small businesses who might not have any resource to be able to dedicate to this and might not have any prior kind of training or understanding. So we are linking back frequently to that international commitment, but we do have a kind of a ton of UK resources on here, and I hope you'll kind of take the time to have a quick look after this. But yeah, just to assure you that after signing up, you will have access to a range of really high quality resources to measure and reduce your emissions. You'll receive a monthly newsletter from us, with all the, as in BEIS, so UK government, with the latest net zero opportunities and updates in terms of regulations and incentives. There's always the chance to feature on our channels, because we're very keen to tell the stories of businesses who have actually done this in the real world. We think it's a much more powerful message. Obviously, the onus is on businesses to actually start taking steps to reduce emissions, but we do emphasise that these can be very, very beneficial. And then submitting that short annual progress report. And the reason I say don't worry about it is because the SME Climate Hub, who are our international partner, they're about to release a standard reporting framework that will hopefully, in their words, will strike the right balance between being detailed enough in terms of the data that it collects or that you input, to be considered rigorous by banks and investors who might be able to help with sustainable financing, but then on the other side, not too detail that it's going to be stressful or onerous or impossible for you to do. And then there'll also be, I don't think I've got the slide on here, but there's also access to a library of practical courses that you can take on different aspects of the net zero journey. And then kind of a carbon calculator tool as well. You know, there's lots of confusion because there's so many different carbon calculators out there. Some are free, some are paid for, and a lot of businesses we speak to are very confused about that. So hopefully this SME Climate Hub, again, all UN endorsed, should go some way to solving that. We're going to keep working on it if there are any issues to iron out. So as I mentioned, there are sort of pieces of practical advice on the UK Business Climate Hub. We started with this kind of menu of options, which ranges from sort of quite low to no cost investments like switching to LED bulbs, right through to kind of bigger measures like installing renewables on site. The idea was that for this just to provide some inspiration, especially for those businesses who, again, haven't really come across this before, just kind of making it seem more manageable. But we did get a lot of feedback suggesting this is useful to most businesses to some extent. They actually wanted more industry specific advice as well. So we responded to that with this kind of sector drop-down box. We worked with kind of the top trade associations in each of these areas to lift the headline kind of net zero actions that they'd curated or built up, and then put them onto here in a kind of really nice accessible, comms-ified way. And this is a work in progress. We would love to add more sectors. So if you see any kind of gaping holes, anything that we've missed, or you think that the kind of existing pilot sectors aren't covered well enough, we'd love to hear that feedback. We've had very positive feedback about this so far, but yeah, we know that there's still a lot more work to go. There is an international tools library as well on the kind of wider SME Climate Hub. The kind of the bottom left screenshot, that was kind of it in its original form. We got feedback suggesting that was a bit too overwhelming. There was just so many different tools there. It was a little bit difficult to navigate, or very difficult to navigate. So we worked with the Oxford University team behind that to create this highlight section at the top, which breaks down the net zero journey into sort of stages. And each one of these, if you click them, will reveal the top 2 or 3 tools. So kind of the basics are laid out there. And then in more recent weeks, the Oxford team has built this kind of sector or not select, it's kind of like a way of filtering the resources so you can isolate what you need more easily. Again, a work in progress and very open to feedback. And I would say I've heard kind of a lot about the amazing array of resources that are available in London, but some of you said that they were kind of open to businesses nationwide. So I would suggest either getting in touch, or there's a if you go to this web page, I will link. I've got a lot of links to share. You can actually submit your own tools as well, so they can be considered. What we're actually thinking about is potentially creating some kind of location filter as well. I think that's easier said than done by the sounds of things from that team, but I think that would be really, really helpful going forward. So yeah, again, open to discussion. So finally, just ways you can get involved besides everything I've just mentioned. Of course, signing up to the Race to Zero via the SME Climate Commitment. If you are a small organisation as opposed to an SME, you can still join. So that's nice because you can then talk about this with kind of more confidence if you're going through the process yourself. Promoting the campaign on your own channels. So we've got a social media pack, the communications toolkit, I should say, that we can share with you. And then synergizing Race to Zero with your existing campaigns and events, just like this, and inviting us to come and present, or you can have our slides as well to present yourself. And then finally, helping us find those really exciting stories so we can inspire other businesses. Thanks. I hope I didn't go over too much.
Oh, well, Sam, you went over, but you're lucky because we did have another speaker who hasn't joined, and that was Sam Baker. And so I didn't cut you off or anything.
Sorry,
so
thank you.
Good stuff. And yeah, so I will have a question for you, Sam, in a second, but to say that Sam Baker from Goal 13, which is an organization, it's a coalition of various industry bodies, including the CBI and a couple of large organizations like Deloitte. They've got together to create a platform, again, to progress the climate change agenda on behalf of small and medium-sized enterprises. Sam is currently walking to Glasgow from London, and so he's actually walking the talk because there's about 25,000 people going to Glasgow in a week or so's time. And I assume many of them will be using fossil fuel energy to get there. But Sam is actually using foot power. So walking the talk, which is great. He's probably got connectivity issues, so he can't join. But it sort of helped Sam from Bays to talk about all the other things that she wanted to cover. So that's great. I did have a question for Sam, which is around the fact that, as you know, Sam, the Mayor of London has committed London to be net zero by, I think, 2030, compared to the rest of the UK, which is 2050. So do you see any challenges, any conflict, any opportunities around that? And would London be the forerunner, the leader in this pack to get us across the line?
Yeah, when you sign up, actually, you can choose 2050, 2040 or 2030. So yeah, absolutely no conflict. We really encourage, sorry, I would have gone into even more detail, but yeah, aware of the time constraints. Yeah, we encourage businesses to sign up to both this and their local initiatives and just access all the resources that they possibly can. I know a lot of councils across the UK have made really ambitious targets, 2030, 2020. I'm in Nottingham and we're carbon neutral by 2028. So yeah, it's extra ambitious, but yeah, I'd just say do as much as you can. I mean, unless it's confusing or stressful for you, then yeah, take advantage of the resources in multiple initiatives. The way we like to think of this is kind of the global umbrella campaign, so you can join that global community and sort of be among businesses all over the world, and hopefully there'll be some kind of peer-to-peer support there as well. But no, that's not to take away from London. London's amazing, and yeah, I'm sure you'll beat everyone else.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, Sam. So we had 3 questions come through during the session. The opportunity is there for the person who's asked the question to come on to the screen to ask. We have about 5 minutes left, so we'll keep it quite brief. The 3 questions, I'll just headline those. One was anonymous, but it was around B corporations. B corporations are, it's like an accreditation for organizations that are looking at the environment, sustainability and governance issues and doing the right thing as they develop and grow and build their business. And the question was, in particular, are you aware how VCs look at such companies looking for investment? So if the person who asked the question wants to come on screen, great. Otherwise, we can sort of discuss that in a second. The second question is around why does the mayor's office insist on contractors accepting unlimited liability when awarding contracts? How can this help SMEs deliver technologies towards net zero? I was not aware of that. If there's anybody else who can add some more insight onto that, please do feel free to do so on screen or not. And the third one was there are multiple hubs to register a net zero pledge. As a tech startup, I know of Tech Zero that's relevant to our business, but do we need to also register on the SME Climate Hub or just register on one hub? And so this one probably is one for Sam, is that right, Sam?
Yeah, so we do work with Tech Zero, and I'd probably give the same advice there's no problem with signing up to both. But if you feel satisfied with the resources that you have from Tech Zero, that's great. But you could also make the SME climate commitment and get access to the standard reporting framework. And we do have tech-specific advice as well. So yeah, we are trying to work to streamline this and make it as non-confusing as possible, but appreciate, we're not there yet. And there are so many different sort of things pulling you and asking you to sign and commit. But ultimately, both race to zero, so joined up.
Excellent, thank you. And I had a raised hand from Shahrukh. I believe Shahrukh was the one that asked the question around the contractors having to accept unlimited liability. Shahrukh, did you want to be on screen or be a panelist? Is there anybody else who knows more about this, around contractors having to accept unlimited liability?
I mean, I could just chip in a thought, albeit obviously can't answer further exactly why that requirement was put in place. But this is something that FSB talks a lot about at a national level. So, for example, the Cabinet Office, who've got a target of 1/3 of all sort of national government procurement contracts going to small and medium-sized enterprises, which we absolutely support. But these kind of requirements, like requiring, huge indemnity insurance, for example, or unlimited liability, are a real barrier, because it essentially means that small business can't afford the insurance, and big business that naturally has that level of cover swings in and wins the work. So I think it's a really good question, and these are the sort of requirements that I do think need to be changed.
Yes.
Can you hear me? Sorry.
Shahrukh is online. Okay.
Yeah, I've just been given permission. Thank you for the opportunity to talk. Yes, I was awarded a competition. I submitted an idea. I was told you won. Brilliant. I went and got 2 subcontractors to kind of ready for execution of the project. Then last minute, I was told that there's no way the mayor's office will accept anything but unlimited liability. Of course, as a small SME, we cannot accept unlimited liability. Nobody can. So, and the contract was taken away. I just think this is really not very useful to help SMEs contribute towards mayor's target of achieving net zero. The junior lawyer that I was dealing with wouldn't even entertain a discussion around this topic. So most unfortunate, we lost that. I think London lost that too.
It's a very important point, I think, and this is the kind of thing that obviously the policy teams in the various organizations around here want to know about. And so we will be taking that forward and exploring it and seeing how that can be fixed. And Shahrukh, feel free to email myself or any of the FSB team with those comments, and a little bit more detail that would be useful as well.
Thank you. If you let me have your email, I will definitely do that.
Okay, I'll post it. Yeah,
thank you very much.
Meanwhile, we have Sam Baker, who is somewhere between London and Glasgow, having walked the talk. And Sam, please, the mic is yours. Please do talk a little bit about Goal 13. Oh, you're on mute still.
Are we good? Zach, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, many apologies for being a little bit late. I was just trying to find signal. We're just in North Yorkshire heading up to Glasgow. So my topic today, though, is something called the Goal 13 Impact Platform. So this is an initiative run with the Confederation of British Industry, with A4S, with Chapter Zero, with Dell and with Deloitte. And what we've been doing over the last 14 to 15 months is interviewing businesses, large and small, about their climate change narrative. And so we ask companies about the drivers for change, so what pressure they're under to change. We ask them about the initiatives that they're putting in place to actually drive either mitigation or adaptation and what impact they've had. We ask them about the targets and commitments they're making, how that's going and how they're doing that. We ask them about how they're organizing, and then finally talk about barriers and then any lessons learned in that process. So what I hope is that as a resource, so it's open and it's free. So it's goal13impact.com. You can pick it up and have a look at it. And what I very much hope that in a small way, that helps people see that narrative for other types of organization, maybe like yours, maybe bigger, maybe smaller. There's some very small companies on there as well, and get some sort of an indication of what they're doing and why they're doing it and how far they're pushing. We're just producing a report now. I think we're bringing it out on Monday for COP26. On the back of the 420 interviews, we're creating a report with a little microsite, which again will be open and free to all. And that just tries to sort of distill down, I guess, what we've really learned and heard. And I think that one of the critical points, perhaps arguably the most critical, is around trying to design your program of climate action or climate change into the center of the business. It's a massive, if you like, mega trend. You could view it in that way. It's something that people can't ignore, and you don't want to see it as compliance. If you see it as compliance and additional costs to go meet somebody else's rules, albeit very important rules, then you're not going to get the energy. It's not going to be at the beginning of the business. It's not going to be given the priority or the weight it requires. So the first one is really trying to design it into the center of the business. Think about the business model, the formula for success, and thinking how this affects that and how it integrates. And then the second is around collaboration. So time and time again, big organizations and small, the big ones largely focusing on the supply chain, the small ones, perhaps because of resource, are saying that cooperation and collaboration is critical. There is a great desire to collaborate in a way perhaps that people haven't really seen before. I think in part that reflects the urgency that we're under in order to do something. But there's also a desire to collaborate in order to get the right policies in place. And so I think that collaboration piece, particularly perhaps for a small organization, is hugely critical. You don't have to do it alone. You can work with your customers, your other suppliers, particularly the bigger organizations who might have some more resource. My experience is that people really, really want to share, and they're prepared to reach out and share in a way perhaps that previously has been seen as something which you wouldn't do with a competitor, for instance. So Sat, I think at the highest level, that's all. But please, everybody, I would steer you towards the platform, one, and then secondly, towards the report that's coming out on Monday. And I think out of the 420, we've probably had about 35% of SMEs. So it's a reasonably, good representation. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Sam. And by the way, where are you now, roughly?
So I don't really know. North Sedbergh, if anybody knows where that is, Sedbergh, and it's in North Yorkshire.
Okay. I'm nearly there. All right, excellent. No, but on the point of collaboration, I think there's something that I wanted to say about collaboration. A lot of people talk about it and say this is what we need to do more of, as if we haven't been collaborating at all so far. I think we have been collaborating, but the way we've been collaborating has not been effective. We need to find better ways of collaborating where we're much more transparent in the way we work together, maybe leveraging technology to bring people together virtually and accelerate that process, because we don't have a lot of time in this sort of collaboration phase. But that's a bit of a plug from me on what we do. But thank you, Sam, and thank you for joining. I appreciate it. And we're just running over, but there was one final question that I didn't handle properly, and that was around B Corps. And I know a little bit about B Corps because I applied and went through the process of doing so. In terms of VCs, again, I've worked with VCs before. Yes, it will be seen as a good thing by VCs, but it's also somewhat onerous to go through that process if you are becoming large as a small or medium-sized organization. The earlier, the better, because there's much less items to consider when you're a smaller organization to fulfill B Corp status. I don't know the angle that the question came from, and we didn't have anybody follow up on it. But I think that's probably as best as I can answer at this stage. Thank you. And thank you, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this three-part series. This is the third and final one of those. Looking forward to all the discussion and action that's going to take place as a result of COP26 and beyond. And please stay engaged and keep connected with all the organizations that you've heard about today through any one of them. I think we're all pretty well connected now, and looking forward to working together more with all of you. Thank you. Thanks to Sarah and to Dominique for organizing all this. Thanks to Rowena. Thanks to Paul. Brilliant job, guys. Thank you and take care. Bye.
Thanks, Sat. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks all.
Bye.
Thank you.